A big welcome to you. I have a very special guest today, and I would like to read you his bio. This is a one for the ages, a really important session to watch if you are really at a loss for how to proceed in your own personal life or as a result of the surrounding events, current events, and so forth. This is a very fraught time in our history, and this will be a great talk if you're having trouble with that. Michael Amster is a doctor, physician, faculty member at Touro School of Medicine, graduated UCal Irvine School of Medicine, completed his pain management fellowship at the University of Iowa, student meditation for more than 30 years, certified yoga teacher, meditation teacher, trained at Spirit Rock. Michael has taught spine, health, yoga classes, founded a Buddhist Sangha, interfaith meditation group, which he did lead for 7 years, occasionally returns to as a visiting teacher. He's been working as a pain management specialist for nearly 20 years, currently the director of pain management services at Santa Cruz Community Health, splits his time between clinical work, research on the concept and the power of awe, teaching mindfulness and leading awe-inspiring retreats all around the world. This is a book that I love. And that is why Michael is here. Dr. Michael, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Elena, for that just really sweet introduction. And we had a really nice connection and talk before we started today. And I'm just so grateful to be here and to get to meet your community of listeners. And, deep bows to the work you're doing and the chaplaincy work you do, and the healing that we're spreading through this work together. And I just really, even though we usually close in the Buddhist circles with a dedication of merit, I feel like we want to set that intention of the work we're doing right now in our conversation to really spread healing and peace and consciousness and love in the world.
May it be so for all beings, brother.
Amen.
I'm going to read the epilogue to the book for our listener viewer first, if that's okay.
Of course. Yeah.
Page 227 in The Power of Awe. If you're watching or listening, I will have the link below to buy the book. We started this book by confessing that we were almost embarrassed when we found a shortcut to transcendence. But like the shortcuts we rely on when using a computer keyboard, AWE, or AWE, which we'll get into shortly, is a sequence of neurological and physiological keys that elevate consciousness, improve relationships, and accelerate healing, well-being, and personal growth. A shortcut worth taking. When practiced enough, awe has a cumulative effect. Soon we begin to experience spontaneous moments of awe when we least expect them. This is more than delightful, it's powerful. Awe has the potential to change us. We feel these changes as pronounced shifts in our health, well-being, responses, attitude, approach to people and situations, indicating that our brain cells are establishing new pathways. These shifts indicate that we're turning the typically fleeting state of awe into a trait, a part of who we are as a person. But the awe method is more than a self-help technique. Its implications go well beyond personal transformation. Awe touches everything. And perhaps the most telling is the effect that it has on others. We are wired to attune to others' behaviors and moods. Our nervous system senses the emotions of those around us. Just as being the recipient of a warm smile can lighten our mood, when we're in awe, those around us feel it too. Awe is contagious. Practicing the awe method is one not so small way we can contribute to the world. In this book, we covered how the awe method is grounded in science. A whole body of science supports that awe changes lives. So we have a big symbol crash ending to the power behind the simple practice of the awe method. If practiced frequently enough by enough people, a critical mass, as it were, everyone would experience a significant, heightened shift in consciousness. Awe changes us. And when we share our awe, we change the world. Few questions for our listener and viewer too, before we close this epilogue. How can we be in awe of someone and physically or emotionally harm them? How can we be in awe of the natural world and destroy it? How can we be in awe of life itself and not live as if every day were a miracle? In awe, the tone of every conversation, from the personal to the political, shifts from having an agenda to being open and curious. Our conversations impact how we raise our kids, how we help our aging parents, how we treat our spouse, how we participate in community, how we mentor or supervise people, how we govern a city, how we lead a nation. We can think of no downside to practicing this method, because awe is the light, the appreciation of nature and different cultures, the curious and open mind, the generous and giving soul, the light, even during times of darkness. And these days we need awe more than ever. Awe awaits you, surrounds you in the ordinary moments of your life. Like the view of the stars that fill the night sky, awe is free and available. All you need to do is pay attention to what you value, appreciate, find amazing, wait, and then exhale and expand into the unlimited timelessness of awe. I just want to say amen.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Amen, sister.
Oh my gosh. This is how we do it. My mind gets stuck on those questions, and I also get very honed in on this agenda, from the agenda to being open and curious. In the face of, we're meeting, for our listener and our viewers' sake, we're meeting on day 3 after the attack in Israel from Hamas, the terrorist organization Hamas, which is not representative of the Palestinian country. Okay. So terrorists, similar to Nazis, have just murdered hundreds of Jews in Israel. Caveat, both Michael and I are of the Jewish faith. Both of us have been touched personally by these attacks. We know someone who was there. We know someone who died. We have family there in Israel. How do we move from our agenda to make sure that justice is served, Michael, in the face of the Holocaust, in the face of this unwarranted atrocity? How do we move from that agenda to one that is open and curious? I wonder.
Well, this is a really hard time, and I've been thinking a lot about this the last few days. I was actually very blessed to have a day of awe yesterday and spend my day down at Esalen as a guest for a friend of mine, so I could do some writing, which is one of the most beautiful places on the planet and awe-inspiring. And there's a lot of really big questions, and the answers aren't all clear, but I can tell you that awe is definitely part of the answer. What I love about this practice, and this is me as a medical doctor, a scientist, but also a spiritual practitioner of many years, is that when we're facing threats, either real or through the news, or we care about people across the planet that are suffering, humans that are, our hearts go out to those in like Ukraine or in Kosovo and all these different places where genocide is happening right now, Israel. It fires up our amygdalas and our fight, freeze, our sympathetic nervous system. And we get hijacked. There isn't actually a real threat right now for you and I. We're safe in our homes in Santa Cruz and in Santa Fe, but we feel like worked up. We're anxious. We're feeling scared, and we're worried. And what I love about this practice is that it's a reset to our nervous system. And we can, like with intention and with a very simple practice, reset our physiology, and come into the present moment, to begin to reset our physiology, and then to experience gratitude and an experience of awe and that spaciousness and connection to the vastness of the universe, to God, to whatever consciousness, that the word you use for that universal, non-dual consciousness that connects all of us on this planet. So I think one of the answers is awe. And we talk about that, as you just read in our epilogue, about, when you're in awe, you don't have the capacity to kill other people. When you see the beauty and diversity and different languages and cultures, you just are in a place of appreciation, and valuing, and really in wonderment of the miraculous diversity of human life on this planet. So I hope we get to practice this together and share this with your listeners in a little bit. But I've been using this practice really to help with my physiology and to bring me back into the present moment. And there's another part I do want to share briefly, and I think it's important. And we actually have a whole chapter of our book dedicated to this topic. It's because in life, we have a lot of challenges that will come up. We can't, have a Pollyannish, always things are going to be perfect attitude. We're going to all deal with aging of ourselves, our aging parents. We're going to have sad, horrible things happen, whether through terrorist attacks or illnesses that we face. And awe is a very unique emotion in that we have the capacity to experience awe even in the darkest, most horrible times of our lives. And Viktor Frankl, who many of you probably know about, he is a survivor of Auschwitz. He's a psychiatrist, wrote one of the most important books of the last century, Man's Search for Meaning. He actually describes in great detail about the prison mates of his going on basically like a death walk out of Auschwitz through the Bavarian hills and experiencing this beauty of the sunset in the mountains, and being really in awe, and how awe was one of the ingredients that gave people hope and connection and a sense of meaning in a really dark time in human history. When we're sad and depressed, and I've gone through depression through a divorce and really hard times, like, you can't force yourself to be happy. If you really have gone to those dark places, you can't make yourself happy. Or if you're anxious, you can't make yourself free of anxiety. But you can always access awe, even in those dark times of your lives. We can always have that brief respite of resetting our nervous system and our physiology and experience vastness, connection to something greater than ourself, out of our troubles, our problems, and to really feel that sense of wonderment and joy that's just there in this existence of being human.
Thank you for that. In one of the really beautiful blurbs from Dr. Keltner, which I have in my notes actually here on my computer, it's not on the back of the book, really touched me. In this deeply insightful book, Jake Eagle and Michael Amster introduced their awe contemplative approach, which was tested during the stress and trauma of the COVID pandemic. And it's meant to increase your everyday sense of awe and wonder. It's a very interesting book that I have loved, and that's why we're here together. Dr. Keltner is a professor of psychology, and he feels that it's actually a really important tool to inspire us to open our eyes to what is good around us. So before we get into the practice, it's so interesting how many times I've heard people say to me in the last 3 days, I feel guilty for blank. Enjoying my dinner, enjoying my child, going for a walk, having a beautiful time with my partner, whatever the case may be. And I wonder if we could offer some insight from your perspective, from the power of awe, on what it means to uphold our listener, your practice, even during these very tenuous times, and why it might not be so important to feel guilt, but it might be more important to really enjoy.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this as well. I really appreciate this question. And as what I shared with you, my brother lives in Israel with his family, and my parents have been a wreck and really upset. And I've come to the conclusion that it's important for us to care for ourselves and our nervous systems and our physiologies. Um, and it's very, very important. Like it's for us to be there for others, for us to be able to give and to help spread peace and love and connection and healing in this world. We have to really take care of ourselves first. We talk about this in medicine, doctor, heal thyself. Um, and we need to be committed even more than ever to our practice of self-care. And so for me right now, in this really tough time, I know that I have to move my physical body. I have to get out and let this energy go, this residue. So I've been exercising more than usual and surfing and hiking and being outside and gardening. So for the listeners, my prescription would be get outside, move your body, do things to get into this physical sense of being alive. And in that, you can experience awe. Um, Awe and the practice that we teach. And Dr. Keltner, as you read about him, and he's actually our co-investigator. We did our research in his lab at UC Berkeley at the Greater Good Science Center. And we know from our research, which we tested at the height of the pandemic, we had about 200 doctors and nurses in one arm that were super stressed out at the time of, if you all can remember, when we were sheltering in place and we didn't know where this was really going to head and we'd ever get out of this. We taught this in June of 2020, this very simple 21-day practice in which we did in the study of learning to practice experiencing a moment of awe in the ordinary times of our lives. You don't have to go to the Grand Canyon or be at the beach to experience awe. You can do it right now, wherever you are as you're listening to this podcast or this recording. It's that powerful and that simple. And then we also tested on 300 primary care patients that were all dealing with depression and loneliness and anxiety at the height of the pandemic. So this is a very applicable parallel time when we were all super stressed out many years, 3 or 4 years ago, at the start of the pandemic. And it's a practice that has really transformed the lives of thousands of people. And so in this time of a lot of stress and turmoil, I can't think of it's really one of my top self-care practices, and it's very simple. And one thing I really love about it is that there's a reward at the end of each practice, because when you experience a moment of awe, you feel good immediately at the end. You don't always feel good when you're sitting on a meditation mat for a 20-minute or a 30-minute or an hour-long sit. A lot of pain and difficulty can come up. And what I love about this practice is it's something that's easy, accessible for everyone who can do this. You don't have to be an experienced meditator. In fact, we know from our research studies that they had tried a long-term meditation practice and they couldn't do it. But this works for them. It works for people with ADHD because all you have to do is bring your attention to something that you value, appreciate, and find amazing for literally 10 to 15 seconds.
So we do the practice.
Oh, I'd love to teach the practice
And then we'll
and
talk
share
about
this with
some
you.
of the clinical research. I think that would be interesting, and then we can close.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we created a practice that we call the awe method, and we use the word awe and created an acronym. And there's 3 steps to this. So A stands for attention. And I know this isn't a topic dear to your heart, Elena, of attention. Um, and what we do is we ask you to just bring your attention to something that you value, appreciate, or find amazing. So right now in the space that you're in, first I'm going to sort of talk through the practice, then we're going to really go through it, and it doesn't take that much time. But in the space that you're in right now around you, look at the artwork, look at maybe the objects on the table or on your desk. I'm looking at these colorful Sharpie pens, like they'll have like 20 different colors, and just really in awe of the beauty and the colors that I'm getting to experience right now. It's that simple. So just find something that you value, appreciate, and find amazing, and bring your full undivided attention to that. And then the W stands for wait. And the wait is just a mindful pause. And it's a time where you're giving yourself a gift. If you can think of a time when you've walked with a friend, for example, and they like hold the door open for you while you get to walk through, it feels really good when someone takes care of you. Well, in this moment, you're caring for yourself. You're giving yourself that gift of waiting just for a cycle or two of a breath, just really savoring and letting that just fill you up and enjoy that moment in which you're finding awesome. And then the E stands for two things. You take a nice long exhale out. And when you exhale long, you expand your diaphragm and you stimulate what's called your vagus nerve. And I'm sure many of you know the vagus nerve is really this master computer of our autonomic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that deals with the fight or flight response, the part of the nervous system that calms us down, what's called the parasympathetic response of rest and healing. And when we take that nice long exhale out, we're creating that state of relaxed physiology. So we can do it right now together. Just let's all say a nice long exhale out of awe. Ah. And I just feel so, it's like you feel immediately calm and peaceful and present. And then the E also stands for expansion, because when we have a moment of awe, if you can think back to some extraordinary awe moments you've had in your life, you often feel like a tingle or chill of energy release in your body. And you want to just work with your own physiology and let that experience of the awe moment just fill you up and let that energy expand out of you. So we're just letting it, like, just like having it right now. I'm just like feeling this tingles and chills as I'm talking to you and like experience a moment of awe. It's like that simple of letting that energy go. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do the practice. It takes probably 15 seconds to do. It's really a cycle of a few breaths. So right now, just find something that you value, appreciate, and find amazing. And bringing your full undivided attention to that. And just wait. A cycle or two of a breath and take a nice long inhale in, and then a longer exhale out. Letting that expansion happen. How was that for you? Share about your practice just now.
I was thinking about an interaction that my son and I had this morning. It was really minor. He was leaving and he was thanking me for something that I'm committing to doing for his graduation. The thank you was filled with spaciousness. He stopped his car. He put his car in park. He was out the window. He looked at me, he put his hands together, and he said very slowly, "Thank you, Mom." And I was thinking about that. And I thought, as you were talking, how could anything be bad when that is suffusing my whole body right now? You know, and all of the sadness and the guilty feelings and the angry feelings, they all kind of dissipated like so many little dust motes in a sunny beam of light. And I was just in that place of appreciation for something so small. So thank you so much.
It's so beautiful and so heart-touching. And I'm experiencing awe right now of what you're sharing about your son. And one of the things I love about this practice is, as you read in the epilogue, awe is contagious. When you share your awe with others, you inspire awe in them and you gift them awe as well. And that's what's so loving and wonderful about this practice. My little awe moment, I noticed the sticky note that my sweetie left me on my computer. It's probably reversed, but it says, "I love you, Lovey," with little hearts. And I was just like, it just in such awe of her name's Alana and our relationship and how sweet she is and loving and kind and thoughtful, and just like filled me up with so much joy and wonder and awe and love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's kind of all we can do at this point. You know, just try and find these little moments where there's nothing else but this.
I'm reminded of this teaching of the Buddha I don't remember the name of the parable, but it's the one where a monk is being chased by a tiger,
Yes.
and the monk comes to sort of this edge of a cliff, and it's like either I get eaten by the tiger or I jump off the cliff and die. And there's a branch hanging out, and so he grabs the branch, and the branch is about to break, and it's slowly creaking, but there's like a strawberry that he sees, and he's like able to grab this strawberry. And like in the moment before like the branch breaks and he drops to his passing, and like the monk goes in and grabs and eats this like delicious piece of fruit, and this like, and enjoys like the fullness of life in that last moment.
Mm.
And that's been really like touching me deeply, that teaching lately, about just, we, even in the tough times when we're facing, whether our own mortality, we were sick with cancer. I talked to a patient of mine who's dying of pancreatic cancer yesterday, and finding the awe and the joy in the everyday of what time that person has left. And that's what the Buddha taught in that teaching. And in this really hard time, there's so many people that are suffering, and it's just probably going to get worse before it gets better. We have to take care of ourselves, and we can take care of each other by sharing these sweet times, these moments of awe, and the time that make us the most human. These times of kindness and connection and compassion and love, and sharing that beauty with each other,
Mm.
with our community and our loved ones.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I'm thinking about your brother, your sister-in-law, their 5 children. I can feel how this is touching you, and I'm thankful for your honesty. The research has shown that these tiny little micro moments actually do change our chemistry. I know that in studying with my teacher, I brought this with me today, Roshi Joan Halifax. She also teaches in this little deck that she's offered, the virtue of brevity. She writes about. We know there's great benefit from having long periods of meditation practice, but we've also discovered that even a breath can help move us out of confusing physical and mental states, aid us in resetting in a positive direction, allow us to inquire more deeply into what will serve in a particular situation. So I'd love to talk to you just in lay terms. We don't need to go into the evidence in the book, but in lay terms, so what did you find? What surprised you about the clinical research regarding these micro moments?
Yeah, so we are inspired to do this research, both Jake and I, when we came up with the AH method as long-term meditation teachers. We had found a lot of people challenge themselves and struggled with longer practice. And so we wanted a very simple micro dosing mindfulness experience for people to be able to do on the go throughout their daily lives. And so we came up with this method, and we studied it, as I mentioned earlier, with about 200 doctors and nurses and almost 300 primary care patients. And we found, sort of in the big picture, we looked, of course, at mental health, because that was a huge issue during the COVID pandemic. And we saw a 36% reduction in depression, which is really incredible if you look at other medical research studies that look at efficacy of medication for depression, like Prozac. I mean, our simple intervention, we asked people to just practice the AH method 3 times a day. So 15 seconds, about 3 times a day, it's less than a minute. And we saw a 36% reduction in depression symptoms in those patients, 35% in the doctors. So we saw the same basic results in the 2 study groups.
That's
We also
significant.
saw decreases of anxiety of about 25% in the 2 groups. And this is at the height of the pandemic, the time when like the George Floyd riots were also going on. We actually started our study the day the riots started. So it was a really bad time, like what we're experiencing right now. Things that were really surprising also, I wanted to share, that are really kind of take homes. One is that we also saw an improvement in loneliness, of a significant improvement in people's experience of loneliness. And what's amazing about the practice is that you weren't actually needing to be with people. Like you were doing this all on your own at home while you're sheltering in place. But what is special and powerful about the emotion of awe is that it makes us feel connected. We feel connected to others. We feel connected to all life on the earth, to humans, to non-humans. We feel connected to spirit, God, universal consciousness, whatever word you want to use. We just feel connected to the greatness of all life on this planet. And another really neat finding we found, in addition to decreases in burnout and overall well-being and decreases of stress, was that there's what's called the dose effect. So the more people dosed these brief moments of awe, the more benefit they got. So there's no downside of practicing the awe method 10 times a day. You can do it in these ordinary times, like when you're drinking a cup of water, just to have a brief pause and be in awe of the water and where it came from, of taking a shower. We can match these times of awe and these times of our life, the things we're already doing. While you're at the grocery store and you're standing in line, take a moment, have a moment of awe. Look at all the different flavors of bubblegum and different packages. That can be an awe moment. It's like everywhere around us is an opportunity to find awe. I know we're about to wrap up, and there's a really great quote from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel about finding awe in the everyday.
Hmm.
Would you like me to read it?
Please, I would love.
I really love this quote, and he's sort of a rabbi that was like really focused on the practice of awe, and he was a contemporary of Martin Luther King Jr. And on a lot of these pictures, the back of these marches, he was the guy sort of dressed as a rabbi next to MLK, like holding his hand. I mean, they were like best friends. He says, our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed.
So much. Thank you so much. It's such a simple teaching. I do hope that the benefit gained from my experience here, your experience here, anyone who might be listening into the future is shared broadly with all beings, particularly the ones who are suffering. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity of healing for both you and I and for the community and the world as a whole.
I feel like I have a new friend too.
Yeah, we're spiritual siblings.
I think it's true. Thank you so much, Michael. I look forward to sharing this with my group, and I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.